Hello, all, and welcome to episode 18 of Enterprise Tech India Unplugged. We welcome your suggestions and subscriptions. Please make sure that you subscribe to one of the modes which we provide you. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, or you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple, or you can subscribe to any of your favorite podcatcher, which lets you subscribe to our RSS feed. So just go to ETI-Unplugged.in and you can find ways to subscribe to any of the methods which you choose. Right. So we have Kumaran with us, who is the chief mentor of Tiny Magic, and he's also the chief technology officer. The topic which we want to discuss today is triggered by the recent action by the government of India, is by banning of these very popular Chinese apps like TikTok and Share It, and some of these UC browser. Some of these are very, very popular on the mobile platforms, and this is something related to what we have talked about in the past, which is why are Indian companies, Indian IT companies, or at least consumer IT companies in the applications are not able to produce real quality software, which becomes really popular even within India. So even today, we don't have a very large adoption of Indian applications created in India for the mobile platform, which are so popular within India that they have become the de facto standard for certain things. So that has maybe the exception of, let's say, Paytm or PhonePe or some of these mobile payment platforms. The other entertainment platforms, they have not been succeeding, right? So this has created a new situation for these application developers to start working on their version of stuff, which can be easily created and supported and become popularized within India. So Kumaran, what do you think? So this is something which you mentioned last time, is that government of China had created this environment for those companies within China to prosper, right? So because they did not have access to WhatsApp or Facebook and some of the other popular social media platforms, how has this now turned the tables for companies in India?
I think it's opened up a lot of opportunities. Now, we will stay clear of open internet and what the policy is. We'll just deal with it. We have a situation now. Is it good, bad? How can we make, what can we do about it? I think it's a great opportunity for people, right?
Mhm.
It is one of those very rare opportunities where the problem is clear, the solution is clear. We are also clear how the business model will work. It is just the solution disappeared.
Right.
Okay, so very rarely we get opportunities like this in history, wherein it's something like let's say, something as simple as how to make idli is forgotten.
Okay.
Okay, and only I remember how to make idli.
Right.
Okay, I
Right.
can be a billionaire now.
Right.
Others don't know how to make idli, right?
Right.
That knowledge is not accessible. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or let's say nobody will have grinder, even like our Purana wala, right? That
Yes.
is kind of not there. Only I can make grinder, that stone, even that
Yes.
stone thing, right?
Yes.
I can become a millionaire now, right?
Right.
So I would kind of, the analogy is something similar to that.
Right.
And the example of how it is executed actually is interestingly, just before this call, I had actually shared with some of my mentees sometime. There was this application called Mitron, which had come
Right.
up and went down, right?
Right.
Now, when I looked at it, right, it was, how should I say, it was a perfect execution of how I would say the hypoha framework, which we kind of say, right? It was executed. That is basically do an MVP, figure that out, don't spend too much money, think differently, and things like that. So those guys had all the check boxes ticked. Okay. So essentially, it was a very small team. They bought that application of the code from a developer for something as piddly as $100 or $150.
Okay. Okay.
They didn't develop it. They didn't write one line of code. They
Right.
got it white labeled for themselves. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then they went live with that.
Mm-hmm.
Set up the server, got some AWS, and it's a perfect digital story there.
Mm-hmm.
Hardly those guys might have spent some 20-30K on that. Okay, so they
Mm-hmm.
went up with an application and they had 1 million downloads within some 2-3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now that is truly digital, because I would say it's about the amount of money that they spent, and then they got pulled down. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and now when I saw it, looks like they had come back because it was more a technical issue. It was a kind of a replica of TikTok.
Right.
Okay. Now I kind of see a news which says that there is a 11-fold download of that application after the ban.
Right.
Okay. 10 million downloads in 5 days. And this
Mm-hmm.
application is being used by 17 million people.
Right.
17 million. Can you imagine that?
Right.
And
Right.
the uh, the company has got some, what, I guess some 5 people or 10 people. We are looking at something like WhatsApp, right?
Mm-hmm.
How
Mm-hmm.
they see. I think this kind of opportunity is there on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but um, will enterprises think about that? It's going to be hard because they are still thinking billing, number of people, what projects do I get, how much people will be billed, how many on bench, how do I reduce my bench size. Okay, and so those would be the challenges in leveraging this. See, I
Mm-hmm.
think the ability to be agile, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do I, in the enterprise scenario, any company for that matter, how do I let people to just download stuff and use it? Can I give each team some 20,000 rupees and then say, guys, just go do something? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Either people will go overboard on one side where they will give that 20K and then there's no guidance, nothing. People will just go blow up the 20K and come up with zilch. Okay. They have no idea about it. Or then they will say, you know what, we tried this startup approach, it doesn't work for our company. And I've seen that happening in large organizations, uh, services companies which tried to invest in products. They would have done it for 4 years, 5 years, like that. And then say, you know what, we tried doing product development for 5-6 years, it didn't work. Now, it is similar to what I just told her some time back, right? Waterfall management,
Mm-hmm.
agile teams. Okay. It's like that and condition in logical, right? When you do an and condition and you have 100 ones, and then you
Mm-hmm.
so and with 1 0 in the final thing, the output will be zero.
Zero.
So
Right.
similar to that, if all the teams are agile, but if the leadership is waterfall, which means they cannot live with failure,
Mm-hmm.
right? At their level, they want it to be, they want to be always successful to the stakeholder, to the shareholder.
Mm-hmm.
That organization is never going to be agile. So how is it related to this? Basically, because when you give that, the reason to fail and the guidance, if it is given, then enterprises can really, and if 3 people can do it, I'm sure many more enterprises have got many more opportunities to do something like this. And ours, I think, is a very big market. And the other beauty of our thing is, like, now people can actually do a what we call a zoom in hypoha. For example, there can be a TikTok which just focuses on Bhojpuri content,
Right, right.
Gujarati content, Tamil content, right? And that application can kind of zoom in towards that. Like, for example, in Tamil, there is a comedian called Vadivel. So when they make those things, they can bring in that local flavor, right?
Yes,
Memes specific to
right.
that. So even if I take Tamil speaking audience,
Mm.
the audience that I have for something like that is huge across the world. And if I can build a little bit of cross platform feature to it, such that an app developed here can be published on, I actually don't know how TikTok app people publish it on uh, WhatsApp or Instagram or Facebook. Like, let's say you build a little interoperability. So you zoom into a particular segment, right? And then build an interoperability such that you can expose your content to the other platforms. It's worth exploring on. And I don't think it takes $1 million to do this.
Absolutely. And in fact, I was just looking at some of the applications which have suddenly gone viral, as they say now. Which is one is called Roposo, and I was just looking at how they have produced that. Just looking at their website, Roposo, and
Okay.
and and they have actually done a very decent job. And there is this another application called Chingari,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is that is also caught the imagination of a lot of people, and so all of these applications have very similar sort of TikTok kind of background to it. Roposo is trying to be a fashion kind of a thing. Share this Chingari is probably exact replica of TikTok or something like that. And so I just thought, I have personally, I have no interest in some of these things, but just from the application development perspective, I was just looking at what and how these teams are working. And so I just looked at the page of the application download on iOS and as well as Android. It says, what is the feedback of people who are actually using it? Right. And there is, if you just look at the comments of how people are rating these applications, it says the interface is bad, everything is bad, but I'm going to give it 5 stars because it is made in India, right? So and that is a sort of uh, bad kind of approach to nationalism, but
Yeah.
that is what is happening now to see the thing. But what encouraged me was not that they are giving fake praise to an application which doesn't deserve it. What I saw was, so this the people who are behind Chingari, they are on LinkedIn hiring people now, right?
Uh,
They say we need graphic designers, we need these people, we need iOS designers because our applications right now on iOS sucks, so we need these people, right? So so that is what actually is more encouraging than the feedback which they have on the fake likes they have on the
I th-
yeah.
that's true. And I think actually the other interesting thing is, right? You have a runway to set yourself right.
Right.
Right? The users are generous enough to accept your mistakes.
Right.
And I think that's a great environment for MVPs, right?
Right.
Do something, don't be complacent, get feedback and fix it. And I don't think anything else a startup could ask for. You have a forgiving audience.
Exactly. Exactly. people are
It's
willing People today are willing to try anything which has this made in India label on it, right?
mm,
And which is a, I would say this is a positive pressure the the application developers and the startups can look at, right? That this is something which we can make use of this situation and create this positive pressure on themselves.
absolutely. And I think this period, like however long the ban is, short, long, doesn't matter. Even if it is for another, let's say after 2, 3 months, it goes off. Okay.
Yeah.
If our ecosystem has not make advantage of it, I think we have to honestly accept that we are very poor entrepreneurs and uh, technologists.
Right, right. And this is an area which is totally not regulation. There is no regulation for it. There is nothing stopping which a
Correct.
government can. Government has actually given you a runway, which you just
Yes.
said. Government has given you an opportunity and runway to exploit.
Not consciously, but
You know,
then somehow
yeah, means this is that is
on a
what opportunity
platter.
is, right? This
Correct.
is the unintended side effect, right? So this is unintended side effect means for years government has been trying to promote the local way of local content and local entrepreneurs, but the this is the same thing, right? You have this made in China object and you have this made in India object, but there the quality is so far beyond which is provided from the other side that there is no value for what you are providing, right?
Correct.
So they have
And I think
eliminated that difference for the moment.
absolutely, and I think the possibilities are immense for lot of developers. Like if you take UZ browser, imagine Tamil browser, Telugu
Right,
browser, Tulu
right,
browser,
right,
right? And that browser will help you get that content. Like they can tune it. It can do auto search. It can
right,
pick up Tamil YouTube video channels. So
right,
it can that they can quickly customize that browser to do that itself.
right, absolutely, because I think they
And then the sky is the limit, right? Considering you
yeah,
now we can actually say, I'm so happy that we have so many languages in India.
absolutely. You see, people don't realize that each state is the size of a country.
Correct.
Each state is the size of a country, and if people want to see data of how these things actually work, is they all they have to do is just look at the local language news channels,
Oh yeah.
right?
Good
So
example. I agree. Correct.
right, so if you just want to see how localized you can be and
And how
still
much
have
money is there? How much
absolutely
money?
how much money you can
I think
make. Yeah.
in Tamil Nadu alone there is close to 20 channels, and out of which six are news channels alone.
Yes,
Tamil news
yes,
channels.
yes, yes. You see, I'm sure there are at least 100 channels originating in Tamil Nadu. At least
Mm.
100, right? So that is not a very big number for a state as big as Tamil Nadu, right? 100 channels out of that, I'm sure there'll be at least dedicated news channels for even for cities. A large city like Chennai or Coimbatore or Madurai, any of these big cities can have their own news channels and they'll be significantly uh, they have significant advertising revenue, right? So that's where they are living. So that's where the market is. If people have not realized that, then now is the time for them to realize that you can
Absolutely.
have this localized content, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs are doing it. It is just that this 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 impetus which was required for people to start looking at those things seriously, right? When so it's this crisis has created this environment for people to start looking at these things. Okay, it is possible that there might be an Indian version of something like which I'm so used to, right?
I think
So
I would actually to make, for example, with our theme, right?
mhm,
I think the real question to be asked is how many apps am I going to see from Infosys, from Wipro,
right.
from a Cognizant, from a Virtusa, from a HCL? How many of those apps? Today, not many exist there.
Abs- I
And
don't think they are even looking at these markets, so to say, because they are busy serving uh, another market, right? Which is basically
uh, but I guess there are companies like, for example, I guess Wipro, TCS, they all do have a fair share of local India customer.
no, no,
They,
I
it's
don't. I did not mean that they don't do India market. I'm saying they are
okay.
not after the consumer market, right? They are only after the enterprise market, and they are after government contracts, they are after large manufacturing organizations, right? Who themselves are not very agile, right? So for them, just to launch an RFP can take 6 months, right? So we don't expect them to get into contracts where they'll be expected to write an application in 2 months, right?
Well,
And roll it out to
I,
production.
I think, okay, so probably I'm a little greedy here, or enterprises of that level. There's a possibility for them to do it. I mean, they have the potential to launch 30 apps in 2 months. Whether they would switch to do that is a different question. But they have the perfect moment to try it out.
So I think this is an opportunity for smaller IT organizations,
Yeah,
smaller software companies, which are much more agile, to be able to play in this area with the enterprises, right? Where
correct.
they can actually go in and say, we are agile, we can turn out stuff much more quickly than some of these large organizations can ever do, right? This is
True.
possible,
Correct.
and this is possibly an opportunity for the large consumers of IT. I would say the large consumers of IT to look at these smaller startups and smaller enterprise-focused companies, to give them this opportunity to build really agile software for them, and I think they will find ready market for it. What do you think?
I think they can, and also there are those medium segment plays, right? Like the likes of your Sonata, Hexaware kind of
Right.
orgs, right? Like in the range of around 500,000. I think it's also a good opportunity for them.
So the problem I see with some of these medium size organization is they try to behave like large corporations,
Mm, mm,
right?
mm.
So although they can be nimble and agile and present themselves as that, they I believe this might be my personal sort of bias. They try to present themselves as a very large organization, so they and that is also a mindset which exists. Why do they need to present themselves as that? Because people don't trust small companies, right? And so I would say, if today an enterprise wants to do an MVP, they should pick a small company to do it. It will cost them much less, it will give them an opportunity, and the cost of failure will be also much less,
Mm.
right? Rather than hiring a very large or even a medium sized company to develop some piece of MVP, they they on which they are likely to lose money, right? So which is a risk which they have to take. So I'm saying, if you want to take something risky, take a smaller company which can do it cheaper for you, and they'll be much more adventurous and much more uh, agile to deliver what you are looking for, right? So what do you think is the downside of trying that approach? What do you think is the downside of trying that approach?
Uh, Downside is basically, see, if the proper mindset is in there on how they can fail, or they'll kind of come with the firm belief that, we can only do services, we can't do products.
Mhm.
So there's a kind of negative reinforcement would happen. So I think that it would be the flip side. And the other thing is, kind of related, if without a little bit of guidance, right? If the classical services teams are being thrown onto this, they would fail, right? And they would lose their basic confidence that they can give a good solution. So those are the flip sides of trying this without being aware of what an MVP is and how to do it in a controlled manner. That would be the flip side, loss of confidence of even whatever you can do basically.
So one of the things that just came to my mind is that why the large enterprises are hesitant to give this MVPs, even MVPs, they are hesitant to give it to smaller companies which have little to no reputation behind them, right? Why are they hesitant to even try it out without being so skeptical that they have to really look for a large company only? Why do they actually not trust them?
Can you repeat that again? I didn't quite
So
get the
so
question.
so so whenever there is a requirement of to do something like what we are suggesting, that to do an MVP, why would a large manufacturing organization, let's say Hero Motors, right? They want to do some small application,
Mm.
right? Why would they go to a medium or a large IT vendor compared to going to a small entrepreneur and letting them take a stab at it, so to say?
I basically it's the same agile thing that we talk about, right? They are still waterfall thinking. One solution which will solve all their problem. And they think that if it's a bigger company, it will, like, if I go to them, I don't have to do anything, it'll all be done by them. Right? So, but then that MVP and agile thinking is about willing to fail, right? So only if the management says, let me fail, can they go with a small thing. So I think probably what they try to do, if you look at the core of it, they are trying to solve a big problem. I'll shoot one bullet. I will spend 50 lakhs for that one bullet, and that one bullet will destroy the enemy completely. That is waterfall. Probably they need to switch to telling, instead of one bullet, I will have 10,000 bullets of 5,000 rupees each, and I will shoot one bullet after another and then see how it lands.
Right, right.
So that willingness to spend that effort, which Ram was talking about in our previous session, right? Managers' willingness to spend that additional effort in trying out new things, that is what needs to happen. And probably the resistance to spend that additional effort by the top management is what holds them back.
Right. So I think we have a good conclusion here that this is an opportunity for all enterprise focused vendors also to start pitching in their things. But although we are skeptical of these large organizations to change their mindset because they are completely that one bullet approach which you mentioned. So what they can look, the small entrepreneurs can look at, is making an impact where, at least in the consumer market, where we have a lot of forgiving customers, right? Today there is an opportunity for these startups and software companies to make these applications which can which they can iterate much more quickly and have a much more larger audience than what they were previously possible to have for them. So thank you, Kumaran, for this exciting discussion. I hope this opportunity is used by all the people who are in this business. So is there something which you want to plug in, which you think you want to make use of this opportunity? What your organization is possible for them to do today, or?
Actually, no, I
Okay.
don't see. I think for us, we are not into a pure tech kind of
Mhm. Right.
space, right? But I think probably there are few things which actually it's kind of interesting. Maybe I need to check if there is any apps from China in my space which has got banned. I haven't done that. I think probably I will take that as an action item. Right? Go
Yeah.
look, see if anything from my space has got banned, and if I can do even a MVP around that for it, maybe. But I think that's a good point. I never even
Yeah.
thought of it. So
Right.
probably I think that's something which I need to go and look at.
All right. So, of course, we have lots of ideas, and maybe you want to look at some idea. and think about what is the possibility of bringing that to life, right? So maybe I'll throw some ideas your way, and then you can decide whether you want to do it or uh, you want to look at different things. Of course, you are in a completely making people performant, right? That is your goal, and that is maybe a unique opportunity which I believe still you don't have too many players in China competing against you,
Sure.
at least in the Indian market, right? So thank you, Kumaran, for your always insightful views, and see you next time with another episode of Enterprise Tech India Unplugged. Please do subscribe and keep us motivated so that we keep producing this content for you, and give us your feedback on our Facebook page or LinkedIn page, whatever you think you like to do. Thank you, and see you next time.